Make every night a wonderful journey, no matter where you are. Here is your harbor of the soul. Good night, sweet dreams. The first story, Bad Company. He shows up at 5 when you're just home from the office and dog-tired, unannounced and uninvited. A smile on his thin lips as you open the door. Sorry to stop by so late. Old chum, he says, but I have something I've just got to show you. You wave him in with a forced grin, surely inquiring about his health as you shoot an apologetic look to your wife. She knows, and you know, that he's always been bad company. Dinner's in the oven, of course, and there's just enough for an extra mouth. She sets the third place at the table and checks the wine cooler should be fine. He notices, you're sure, that he's straining for 3 and ample meal for 2. But he's never perturbed. Bad company this one. Mark your words. Dinner passes with merry laughter through gritted teeth. You smile and chortle while shooting daggers. He, oblivious as always, makes subtle passes at your wife. She tactfully demurs. Ever the hostess, ever the sweetheart. You make a mental note to pick her up something nice on the way home tomorrow. You might even find the energy to make tonight special. If he'd just leave, but that would be far too easy, especially for someone who's proving himself to be very bad company. After dinner it's coffee and dessert in the living room. The sponge cake was for your mother. Your wife baked it last night for the special occasion of her arrival. Now, first into the social corner. It serves as sacrificial lamb to appease the intruder. In the cheap blue suit, his greasy hair and well-worn smile bleeding into your immaculate sofa as he gabs incessantly about nothing at all. His behavior is barbaric, the true mark of bad company. He asks to see your new ratchet set, so you reluctantly let him into the garage. You feel a slight migraine headache coming on. You've got to get him out of here, and soon you steal a glance at the clock on the far wall. 10:30. He grins enthusiastically at your gleaming collection of shiny tools. A practiced eye skimming over their chromium surfaces, you display the ratchets with a faint flicker of pride. Bad company like him doesn't know quality when he sees it. In the living room again. 12:30. You finally shed the vestige of propriety and announce you're going to bed. If he doesn't take the hint, he can damn well sleep on the coffee table. As your wife follows you down the hall, you hear a faint thud from behind. You turn to see her head open like a wet paper bag upon the sudden intrusion of your new wrench, swung swiftly by the pudgy arm. In the cheap blue sleeve he advances with an apologetic half-smile. Thanks for the pleasant evening. Chum, I know I can be bad company. The second story, thumbs out. I was driving home with my girlfriend. It was late and we had just come from the movies. I don't have a radio in my car. It was stolen, however. My girlfriend can play music just fine on her phone. As we drove home in the dark, I started to notice that it was getting foggy suddenly. Her phone started to ring. She looked down angrily at it, since her favorite song was interrupted. When she answered it though, all she got was static. Meanwhile, I cursed and drove around a piece of roadkill. It looked fresh actually. As I thought about it, there was maybe the 4th one that I had passed in the last minute or so. As I drove a little farther, I started to see more and more dead animals. First small things, like possums and skunks. Soon though, I thought I saw a dog, then another large animal. I even had to slow the car to get around 3 deer that lay strewn about the road. They looked more like they had been ripped open than hit by a car. Being a Michigan resident, I know what road deer look like by now. I was really starting to get creeped out. My girlfriend was glancing around a lot too, like she was very nervous. Suddenly, I thought that I could see a shape start to resolve itself at the very edge of my high beams. At first, it looked like a woman in a dress. As I drove closer though, my heart started to beat very quickly. Her skin was pale and dirty. She might have had black hair, but I could not tell. Her face is what really drew my attention. I can see it in my mind almost every waking hour since the night. Her mouth looked like a long smear of ink, spilled from ear to ear. It glistened in the headlights. Her eyes were also black and dark, but they were too long on her face. They almost touched in the middle and extended almost to where her ears should have been. She had no nose. She started to raise her arm, then it clicked. I realized that she was holding out her thumb, following that classic hitchhiker pose that, as when I floored it as I drove past. Her face seemed to follow me as I went by. I don't mean that she turned her head to follow my progress, but that her face seemed to simply slide around on her head to track my car. Somewhere in my head, I noted my trip odometer. When I finally pulled into my driveway, my girlfriend ran into the house. We even left our leftover movie snacks in the car, even though we had passed the girl about 30 miles back. We were still pretty scared. The only reason either of us slept that night, I think, is because we had each other for comfort. That was 2 days ago. My girlfriend left yesterday to visit her grandmother in the town. She was supposed to be back this evening. It occurs to me though, that with all the hours of night that we have in the winter, that they might only take a night or two for someone to walk 30 miles. I was pondering this when my phone started to ring. I nearly jumped out of my skin when I looked at it though. It said it was from my girlfriend. When I picked it up though, there was nothing but static. I didn't start to worry, truly worry though, until just a few minutes ago, when I looked out the window. It just got very foggy outside. The 3rd story. Happy moments. Note, posted on X by this little piggy. I live next to this old woman, and in exchange for borrowing some sugar or some trivial thing, she asked me to listen to a story and tell it to the world. The following story is unedited, and in her own words. As a young girl, I found myself wed to the nicest boy. I became pregnant soon after the wedding, but his family didn't seem to mind at all. They seemed to love me, to formally introduce me into the family. I was invited to my husband's annual family reunion. All introductions were met with smiles and hugs, all save for his grandmother. She looked at me with some kind of knowing fear, almost like something bad would happen to me. She never spoke to me, though, so I simply went along and spoke with others there, not giving the old woman another thought. The following months were supposedly uneventful enough, until the day the power went out at around 8 p.m. I was alone in the house, so it was my duty to go check the breakers. I stepped into the basement with a trusty flashlight, but soon found I didn't need it. But something was there with me. It sought me out. This creature, if that I guess what it was, spoke to me. Will your husband die, or will you go back in time to relive your happy moments? I thought this a trivial question, and replied with going back in time. I didn't wish for my husband to die. The part about the happy moment sounded pretty good as well too. Before I could blink, though, I suddenly found myself in the old park. It had been destroyed when I was 3, so I knew. I had been sent back. Without a way back to my own time, I was left to have my child and be a single mother. Time passed, and eventually, I grew old and lived quite alone. It was a surprise to see that I had been invited to that year's family reunion, as I never got an invitation, but I was glad for it. The day of the reunion, I was just about the first person at the place. Everyone was coming up: my daughter, her husband, and then my newlywed grandson and his pregnant wife. She was being introduced to every person, one by one, and everybody loved her. I felt the pangs of déjà vu, but thought nothing of it until she was introduced to me. If only I could have noticed my look of fear as I gazed into my own eyes.